This is Danny Limelight, and I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to the new Epic Fighting Bantamweight Champion. He is Aiden, the future Ingram. Aiden, what's going on, bro?
Good. How are you, brother? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
The pleasure's all mine, champ. And I mean, my goodness. For those that know, Epic Fighting down in San Diego, 4 Point Sheridan. Shout out to Harvey and Jason Stewart and the whole Epic crew. This was an incredible fight card. Their first Epic back in almost 2 years because of the pandemic. And, you know, you had an opportunity to face a tough Matt Queso Padilla out of Team Quest out in Temecula. And it was a kind of a weird one, right? It was like a limited sneak. It's like he was supposed to, you know, he usually fights at flyweight, went up in weight for the bantamweight title opportunity. He was supposed to fight their champion. That the champion basically pulled out, so we had a vacant title fight for the Epic Bantamweight Championship. And you also came in last minute notice, and bam, here we are.
Yeah, it was a weird experience, but with my luck, that's usually how it happens. The last two fights have been both title fights, and they were both like I was thrown in there against a random guy, and I was able to kind of take the mantle and make those nights mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I mean, what was because you've fought in pretty big promotions, but I mean, Epic, that's also, you know, that's kind of one of the crown jewels of the Southern California amateur scene.
I was really happy that Harvey was he was more than willing to work with me and get me a matchup real quick. I was supposed to fight a while ago, right after like lockdown and everything, and then the card fell through, obviously. So I was kind of in my teammate and I, Ian, who also fought on the same card, we were kind of in a limbo state. We were like, we're gonna try to fight here, and we're staying in shape, stay in camp, and then fell through. Then we'd get fat and eat, and then the next week we'd try to get a fight going. So it's crazy. So I was super happy to fight for Epic. Harvey and Jason put in some work, and it was crazy. They had like 29 fights on that card, and they got them all done. And I was really impressed with how they just handled themselves as promoters, and it was awesome. It was a great experience.
No, absolutely. Again, if you have the chance, even if you have to drive, if you're not in the San Diego area, you might be in Arizona, you might be, you know, in Orange County, California, hell, you might be in Florida. But if you have the chance to attend an Epic card, we warmly encourage you to do so. You will not be, I mean, you won't be disappointed, and you'll get your money's worth. Like you said, 29 fights in the card, all got done. And I mean, if there was 29 fights on the card, chances are there was probably like at least 72 pullouts.
Yeah, there was originally, I believe it was supposed to be 30 to 31 fights. And that was like that week it was set, and then pullouts here. And so, like I said, I was really impressed with Harvey and Jason, who really put on this show, put on as many fights, and they're just awesome. They're one of the better promoters that I've worked with. Had a lot of charisma, had a lot of energy to them. So I was really happy with it.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned, right, because, 2020, man, what a year that damn thing was, man. It was like, it was I think I saw a meme or something like that, and it was just like 2020, and it was like the loading bar, you know, of the internet, and it just didn't really load.
Didn't get there.
Yeah, it didn't get there. It was like kind of a year, but kind of not, right? It was just all over the place. But as a fighter, as a burgeoning fighter like yourself, right? Like, you want to get as many opportunities as feasibly possible to ply your trade, right? I mean, just like any other job, right? You got to get the experience, you know? When you go to, an interview, when they're like, oh, do you have the experience? And you don't get the gig because of you
lack
don't
of
have it.
experience.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Where are you going to get the experience to get the thing you want, right?
Yeah, it was weird because I had my own personal goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, and my short-term goals were to of 2020 get 3 more amateur fights in, get maybe 1 title, and then the start of 2021 become pro and venture off into that. So now I'm at that point in my career a year later, but it was almost a blessing in disguise because you take that opportunity to make yourself better and learn more about yourself and help your teammates out as well, or you just kind of sit on the couch and you wait for the opportunities to kind of pop up. And that wasn't me. As soon as COVID hit, when I lived in Arizona, I stripped out my garage. I spent like $500 on mats, matted the whole place. I had my own weightlifting section, and I invited my friends and my old teammates at the gym I was at out in Arizona, and I held practices every day. And I made sure that I wasn't gonna kind of be a couch potato when it was easy to do that during COVID.
Absolutely. I mean, not only was it easy for anyone to become a couch potato, but while eating potato by being a couch potato, there was chips, all potato, French fries, Uber Eats,
Yeah.
Postmates. Oh man, it was.
I had my moments. Don't worry. I'm binge watching anime and eating a lot of ice cream, but I stayed in shape, fairly in shape.
There you go. And again, a shape is in shape, right? It's theoretically, and
Right.
what you do with it, that's it. It's like the motion in the ocean, so
Yeah,
to speak, right?
Exactly.
Now, I mean, you're not a California born and bred. You come to us as a transplant, right? So, where from?
So originally, I lived in Hemet from when I was 2 years old to 10 years old. I didn't do anything sports related, but both my parents are in the military, so we jumped around a lot. So I went from Hemet, California, to New Jersey, and then from New Jersey to Arizona, where I spent most of my life. So, kind of a transplant, kind of not. I'm like born again, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
born again, California.
That needs to be a shirt, good sir.
Right?
Yeah, that's a marketing opportunity, if I say so myself. But I mean, that's crazy. So, were you involved in sports or prior to this? Because I know with my dad, he was a street musician in San Francisco,
Oh,
right?
cool.
Played on Fisherman's Wharf, at the cannery. And that was one of the reasons why I couldn't do sports as a kid, because Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, when games and practices, right? That's essentially those are paydays, so we couldn't do that. But with your folks' military kind of careers, did that impede you from doing athletics, or how was that?
Not at all. So I really wasn't into athletics until we moved to Arizona when I was like 13, 14. My stepdad is a big Samoan guy, and everyone in my family is like football players, like getting scholarships when they're sophomores in high school and stuff. So they kind of try to ease me into basketball, ease me into football, and I'm just small. I got my mom's genes. I'm a Filipino kid, so I'm like 5 foot when I'm in 8th grade. And once I came out to Arizona, that's when we lived down the street from an MMA gym, and that summer we were just like, let's try it out. Let's see how it goes. And ever since then, I fell in love with it.
That's awesome, and that's a pretty good lineage, right? Your stepdad being Samoan, I'm half Fijian, so
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, right. So what up, Oos? Right,
Yeah.
and then my wife is Filipino primarily, so you got that.
Probably cooks good food.
Oh, everything. It is amazing. That's why there are no such thing as weight cuts in this house, because it doesn't really get off the starting block, really. And the thing is, and the crazy thing about it is, like, she grew up in Central Cali in Bakersfield, right? So she can get down like barbecue and whatever, then the Filipino food, then she'll get like ritzy and do like vegan stuff. I'm like,
oh yeah,
like she's gonna do a salad, and she went to the store and got a big big old bowl for the salad to be contained in. So it's going to be a monstrosity. I'm probably going to. I'm going to work it off on the Echo bike for sure.
You're gonna take a day to yourself.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But so I mean, was your beyond the military, because obviously that is physically taxing. Were your mom, your stepdad, were they athletic?
Yeah, my mom, I believe she was in track and field growing up, and my dad, he's a crazy baller. I mean, in New Jersey, everyone plays basketball where I'm from, so my dad was kind of like a local legend. Like he would ball people up, and again, played football and stuff here and there. But yeah, both my parents were really athletic. So when it came down to training, they were both very supportive, and they just backed me up 100% when I decided to do this full time.
That's it. So take us back to that fateful day where, like, oh, there's that MMA gym right around the corner, right?
Mhm.
And you're like, yeah, let's do that. Did you know? I mean, what was your kind of mindset towards MMA? Had you heard of it? Did you know what it was?
So my dad and I would we'd kind of go in the garage. We always watched UFC. We were always kind of like a fight family. Watched a lot of UFC, and actually got me into UFC. I didn't know what it was, and Best of Pride was on, and first fight I ever saw with my dad was Rampage knocking out Ricardo Arona with a body slam, and I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. He's a superhero, and so when I was still in New Jersey, my dad for Christmas got me like this Randy Couture Everlast MMA kit that you bought at Walmart, and it became with like, some small MMA gloves, some mitts, jump rope, and we'd go in our basement and we'd be like, oh, Pacquiao does this in the boxing fight, let's try it out, or Machida likes to move this way, and we would just beat the crap out of each other in our basement and then in our garage in Arizona. So the last day of 8th grade, going into when I was in Arizona, my dad was just in his office, and he just calls me in. He's like, Aiden, this gym called the MMA Lab is down the street. And it was funny because before we moved to Arizona, our very last event that we saw was when Benson Henderson beat Donald Cerrone for the first time. And he's like, hey, remember, we thought he was Filipino because he's mixed.
Yes.
So he's like, hey, you remember that Filipino guy we saw? And I was like, oh, yeah. He's like, oh, he trains down the street, like a quarter mile down the street. And so I was all in. And I was bullied in school quite a bit, kind of cliche. The last day, 8th grade, I got beat up pretty badly. And I remember just hitting the bag and in the garage for like 2 hours. And then I came in, and then that's when my dad was like, hey, we should check out this gym tomorrow. And I'm like all pumped up. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna beat everyone up. And I was graciously humbled by when I first came to the MMA Lab, and it was awesome. It was great. I still remember my first lesson there, and it stuck with me, and I fell in love with it the first day. So
Yeah, oh man, stumbling upon a gold mine. Like the gym that's a quarter of a mile down the road is the
mhm.
MMA Lab in
Yeah,
Crouch. Like what? Ooh,
yeah, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about
yeah. I
it.
mean, that's almost like when people look for signs, like
Mhm.
where's my life supposed to go? What have you? Do
Exactly.
you? I mean, you drive by and whatever. That's the sign. That's the sign you're looking for. Like that
Mhm.
is the North Star. My goodness.
Exactly. And
What?
and sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, no. Go for it. Go for it.
I was just gonna say, like, the original plan of my life was just to join the military like the rest of my family. Not that there's anything bad with that, but I felt like that was more an inheritance than anything, right? And so when I finally went into the gym and did my first jiu-jitsu lesson, I I, I went up to my dad right after, and I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like that was like a real conversation we had after that jiu-jitsu lesson, and he talked to my mom, and they were like, well, if you're gonna do this, then you better put your all into it. We're not gonna half butt this. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. And that had to be cool, right?
Hmm.
To have your parents go, hey, we recognize that. Hey, he's got something here, and
Hmm.
whether they kind of let on what happened to you on that last day of 8th grade or not, but they knew there was a fundamental switch that was going in your mindset, your emotional kind of the way that you interpret things, right? So,
Mhm.
it was that's really cool that they were able to recognize what was going on with you, and a situation presented itself by
Yeah.
you a hitting the bag, b the lab right down the road, and the rest of they say is history.
Yeah, right. It was just like you said, it just felt like everything lined up. And as a kid, as a 13, 14-year-old kid, I don't really understand, or, I'm still a kid, but back then you really don't understand what you have in front of you. I didn't really understand how serious my parents were about backing me up. And my mom gave me this speech about, we'll back you up no matter what. If you're going to be a garbage man, we're going to try to make you the best garbage man in the world. So take that with you as you will, right? And it was just crazy. And 3 months into training at the MMA lab, the Crouch asked me to kind of be the not punching bag, but be a guy for those smaller guys to be a body for. And it was murderer's row when I got there. It was fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, it's kind of a bit of a paradox, right? Because you
Mhm.
come into this because you had gotten bullied, right?
Mhm.
And then, I mean, like you said, murder's row. That first day, I mean, who was there, or at the very least, who were you a body for? Because I
So,
know the names, but
mhm.
go for it.
So when I was first at the MMA lab, it was right before Benson's first fight with Pettis, in Arizona. So the fight team really wasn't big. We were about 10 strong, if I'm going to be honest. And some of the big names, obviously Benson, Efrain was still at the lab, and he was getting ready for his fight with Charles Oliveira. And John Moraga just started coming from Arizona Combat Sports. And there's a couple other guys. His name's Saul Castro. He doesn't fight anymore. Tracy Cortez's brother, Junior Cortez, was just starting out as well. He was just a wrestler outside of high school. So I was getting in rounds with the smaller guys, and then we realized Benson was a lot bigger than these lightweights at the time. So I ended up being the guy too, eventually down the road. So
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
it was. I remember the first time I sparred, and I sparred with Efrain. And Efrain, he's kind of a nut. He like he's Mexican. He'll put his chin down and he'll go. And I remember the first time I sparred him, and I hit a good 1-2 on him, and he just looks at me and smiles, and I'm like, "Are you good?" And he's like, "Yeah, come on, keep going." And then he pops me in the face. My nose is bleeding, and I come home with a bloody nose, and I'm like, "Mom, Efrain just gave me a bloody nose." My mom's like freaking out, and then she realized who it was, and she's like, "Okay, that's good for you."
Yeah, I mean,
So.
that's and it's funny because that especially like the Mexican blood, right? It's
Mhm.
whew, man, si se puede all the way, dude. They do not give up, give in.
Mhm.
That's just a strong culture. But I mean, also,
Mhm.
that kind of the Polynesian. I always
Mhm.
like to think like Polynesians and people from Mexico on down. I'd say like it kind of levels out
Yeah.
at Belize, not Belize, but Brazil, right? Because
Mhm.
that's Portuguese or whatever. But like, it's big families, usually faith based,
Mhm.
all that jazz. There's a lot of similarities,
Mhm.
with the island culture and the Mexican, Central, and South American cultures.
Mhm. Yeah, you always see if you saw the Max Holloway fight with Brian Ortega, they were joking about who's tougher, the Hawaiian or the Mexican. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
and same thing like Filipinos too, like a
Yeah.
big boxing culture, right? Like look at all the majority of Manny Pacquiao's big title fights were against like high level Mexican guys. You know what I'm saying? So we're both short brown people, and we're both headstrong type of people. So I take pride in that.
Heck yeah, man. You gotta, and that's the thing, because it wasn't always vogue to be, a Filipino,
Mhm.
islander, even a Mexican, right? It wasn't
Mhm.
always a vogue, right? So
Mhm.
when you have these, and anything, whether you're Swedish, like Gustafsson or what have you,
Mhm.
Irish like Connor, right? Like these things, because these are kind of ethnic majorities, minorities, whatever, if you will, that didn't really have much of a representation,
Hmm.
outside of just the communities itself, outside of the
Hmm.
Mexican community, the Islander community, the Irish community, what have you.
Hmm.
It's not like you turned on TV on, I don't know, what is it, TJF on ABC, right? And
Hmm.
saw like a lot of representation. Now you see it all the time, but
Hmm.
like it just wasn't. So it's cool to kind of like wear your colors and ethnic,
Exactly.
roots.
Yeah. I mean, the Olympics. We just had the Philippines just had their first gold medalist, that powerlifter. And then
Yeah, she's awesome.
Soon Lee, who's the first Asian American to get a gold medal from America. So it's awesome. And we for some reason we end up banning, like, so my head MMA coach is Mark Munoz, the Filipino wrecking machine.
Yes.
So we both take great pride in being of that ethnicity. I love it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess so. From the lab, right? From the lab, you're there. How long was your tenure there?
I was at the MMA lab for about 7 to 8 years, and the last like 2 to 3 years were kind of on and off. I would do I was when I was in high school, I would do wrestling, then come back, and then go back and forth. So yeah, about 7 to 8 years, and a lot of camps in between. So I was the guy that was kind of, as the team grew. And we were kind of, and I think they are kind of still known for having a lot of the smaller weight classes, like Casey Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was kind of like the little guy to give everyone else the rounds, and so I kind of made a name for myself. Not building people's careers, but helping people get to that point, right? Like being the tough kid that I can mimic anything, from when my dad and I would kind of mimic people in the garage, to it translated right to the MMA lab. Like, oh, this is how this guy moves. This is how this guy moves. I remember being Demetrius Johnson from John Moraga, and realizing that there are levels to this game. Like, and I really thought we had a really good camp there, and John Moraga was firing all cylinders. And I'm watching the fight as it happens. I'm like, this is insane. How can this man be that great? And I'm not great at all, but looking at him, I'm like, I thought we did everything perfect. I helped a couple girls out too. Jocelyn Lieberger, she was in the UFC for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren Murphy. But the big camps were probably with Benson. I was Frankie Edgar for both his fights, and Gilbert Melendez. So I was the first one that Benson experimented the calf kicks with in the second Frankie Edgar fight. Yep. So that was a fun turning point for the game.
Fun turning point for the game, but round by round, day by day, probably wasn't the best of times for you and your calves.
Honestly, I loved it. I again, like, getting into this so young, it wasn't work for me. It was just like fun. Like, I would go to church, go to school, and then right after I would go right to the gym, and I'd be able to kind of express myself and have fun while training. And I guess that's where I get kind of like my craziness. Like, um, sometimes I like to sit in the pocket a little bit and trade blows and stuff, but that's just me being me. But um, definitely some difficult days, but I always knew that this was for the better of it, and I always knew that when you have a bunch of people working together to achieve one goal, right? When we're all getting together to help Benson out for this title fight, this crazy title fight, or John Moraga, or even helping somebody like Jocelyn Lieberger win her first UFC fight. Like, the whole team gets involved. Like, everyone just has a good time, and everyone understands what the mission is, right? So that's where I was at. So I loved every bit of it. It was just really weird getting calf kicked for the first time, because I remember trying to check one of Benson's kicks because I knew it was coming. I'm like, I'm not gonna let him kick me, and then she hits low, and I fall, and I look at him like, what is that? And he's like, one of our other training partners showed him that, and yeah, the rest is history, right? Now we see it all the time.
Oh man, that's it. Yeah. I mean, that's literally like the formulation of a new era. It's the calf kick era, right? It's almost like the first time people see a rear naked choke, and then everybody's doing rear naked
Everyone's
chokes.
doing it. Everyone's
Right.
doing the OSP choke now. My
Yes.
teammate got it that same night in Epic. He hit the OSP choke, and that's the cool thing now. OSP and Ezekiel. Everyone's trying to Ezekiel chokes in jiu-jitsu now and stuff. So it was such a weird. So I'll tell you how we got started real quick is so we had this fighter from Iraq come to the MMA lab. His name is Adel Kyokshin. He actually fights for
Yeah.
Bellator now.
Yes, I know it.
He's an awesome person, prince of a man, and his story is crazy. And he would show us like little heel strikes, like if you ever watch Benson, or I've done it a couple times where like if I get in a clinch, I'll heel the thigh or heel the calf, and he would show us like little tricks to like kind of keep the action going, And he looks at us, he looks at Benson one time, and he's like, "Brother, look," he's like, "Look how big your legs are. Look how big." He's like, I'm not gonna kick this calf. I will kick the calf. It's smaller muscle." And then he shows it. He flicks Benson's calf, and then he started doing it to all of us. And yeah, like I said, the rest is history. So that's kind of like the creation of this idea of calf kicks. So it was from Adele. So shout out to Adele. He's a legend,
Wow.
man.
Yeah, he is. And again, Bellator has. I'm surprised that he's not on the card for Saturday.
Yeah.
Tomorrow actually, as
Mhm.
we're filming this. But
Mhm.
yeah, man, he's training with Chris Pratt and
Yeah,
all
I'm
that
so
jazz.
happy for him. He was at the MMA lab for a while, and not that anything was wrong with him being there. I just felt like there was like a lot of language barrier and stuff. So I think I believe he went to Kings.
Yeah,
Uh,
he went to Kings, and then he's at least the last I heard he was at Jay Glazer's place.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
But I feel like once he came to California, he really met some people that were really like he really connected with and just thrived. And it was so cool seeing him like Chris Pratt's like helping him read his Bellator contract, and I'm like, especially if you know his story and like where he came from in Iraq and the craziness he's been through, like it is. I'm very happy for him. So.
that's good. That's amazing. That
Yep. He
cool
also
thing.
broke my nose one time. So.
Oh, do tell.
So when I was like 16, I'm helping Adele for a fight, and I just have my hands up like this, and he just front kicks me, just snaps it, and rips the cartilage in the middle of the nose. And so it wasn't ripped, but the actual cartilage was. So I can grind it like that when I was like 16, and he's like a 5th degree Dan in Kyokushin karate. So like it was like pop, and it didn't feel right. It was bleeding. And then after that, next week, I was like, I'm in his face the whole time. I'm like trying to wrestle him, trying to dirty box. Like I was like, after that, I would never let him at least front kick me to the face ever again. But it was good times. It was all in good love.
Yeah, absolutely. And that not. I don't think there's a sport or community quite like it where like you separate somebody from consciousness, like, oh, you okay, bud? Oh, this is where you did wrong, blah blah blah, whatever, and then show you how you could separate somebody else from consciousness. Like,
Yeah,
it's
and you go hang
amazing.
out with them after, go have sushi or something after.
Yeah,
Hey, good job punching me in the face. You did really good. I got black eye from it. Hey, let's go get some
yeah,
sushi after.
yeah. Oh, MMA, it's a crazy, crazy
I love
sport.
it. I love
Yeah.
this sport, man.
As do I. As do I. Now, training at the MMA lab. I mean, mimicking literally. You were saying like, what was it? You Frankie
Frankie
Edgar.
Edgar, Gilbert Melendez, Demetrius Johnson, and again, like I kind of made a name for myself being the guy that could be other people. Like one of my good friends, Alex Caceres, Bruce Lee, where I helped him out for Uriah Faber because he's a short, stocky wrestler with the overhand and double leg. So it was really cool that like not only did I get to progress in my training, right, and train with like high level guys, but it would be like John Crouch at the time. He'd send me DVDs of the guys and be like, make sure you watch this. And so my dad and I would kind of get together at night after we get home from work, and we'd break down these fighters that we were trying to be like. And so not only did it help me become a better martial artist, right, but it helped me become a better coach as well. And that's what I really take pride in as well, is like I feel like I'm a very good coach as well. So yeah, it was awesome. it actually conformed to after I left the lab and then I went to Fight Ready. Then I have Henry Cejudo hiring me to be Dominic Cruz for his last fight. So it was like, just a blessing with all the opportunities and stuff.
That is so nuts. I mean, again, pretty much flagships of Arizona MMA, right? The Lab and Fight Ready. Those are kind of the 1 and 2.
The best ones.
Absolutely. So, all this experience, right? And then now it's you. Like,
exactly.
Was there a fundamental switch where you're like, instead of being the body, I want to be the guy? It's like the backup singer, like, and now I want to sing lead vocals.
Yeah, I'm tired. I'm Beyonce. I'm tired of being the side character. I want my own solo album.
All right, single ladies. Okay.
But it was there was a turning point to where I think it was when I graduated high school, and I had my daughter right after high school, a beautiful girl, Leala, and so I took some time to be a big boy and work full time and provide and whatnot, and I got a little chunky too, and so there was a point where I was like, I want to go back to this, but am I going to go back to this kind of like how I was in high school, where it was just kind of like, it was fun. I could make a career out of it, but I took it mentally as like training time is fun time, or do I really want to make a career out of it, like be a big boy about this, just as I had to be a big boy when I provide for my daughter. Do I have to be a big boy going into MMA? And seeing all the guys that, like, about that year and a half that I took off, everyone not under me, but everyone around me went from here to like Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley was still fighting. He barely had his first fight in LFA, and then he skyrocketed. Mario, I forgot his last name. Mario. He fought Corey Sandhagen. Unfortunately, he lost, but he's also in the UFC. Like, I just started seeing these guys that we used to trade blow for blow with, and they started growing around me. So that's when I had that. I'm like, if they can do it, I can absolutely be there. And you're right. Like, there was a point where, like I said, I need to stop being a body so much, and I need to build a career for myself. And that's kind of when I took things more seriously. Like I said, big boy training.
No, that's great. I love that kind of fundamental switch. I kind of look at, because I'm a pro wrestling fan. That if not for Dan Severn walking into WWF in like 96, 97, I don't know if I would have heard of MMA, right? So with that all being said, and Dan Severn, another Arizona legend, right? But the fact of the matter is, you have a bump card. That's a wrestling term. How many times your body can take that flat back bump before it says, screw you, we're not doing that, and you're left maybe paralyzed, or everything quicks in the morning, right? So it's the same thing, especially what we're now learning about CTE and all this, what have you. You've only got a short window. You've got 3 to 7 years if you're lucky, right, for amateur to pro, and you're using all of those like good bumps, so to speak, basically enhancing other guys, but leaving nothing for yourself, which is a little bit off from what you said to your parents what you wanted to do when you first started MMA.
So it was, like you said, like early on, like I didn't see a problem with it. I didn't see a problem being like the guy. Like, I'll go in there and go with Benson for the next round or two and just let him, there's like footage. I gotta send it to you. There's like footage of like Fox Sports 1 and like Benson just wailing on me, and like they would use that footage every time Benson would fight on Fox, and I was like, that is awesome, but like and so I had that conversation with my parents a long time ago, and it was just a learning experience, right? Like, kind of forged. Like, the steel is forged through fire and a lot of pressure. And it went from, and it's just minor adjustments in training. Am I going to just sit there and be the punching bag, or am I gonna try to thrive in these rounds as well? And I took that little by little, but like I said, like once I really made that mental switch of, I'm going to do this for me, instead of, it's fun time, this is a hobby, I'm going to help so-and-so with his fight. I really started training differently. A little bit more selfish. Like, I'm still a team player, but looking out for myself a little bit more. You know what I'm saying?
No, and as well you should, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have your daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have your whole life ahead of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're getting pretty much, like again, a body, a lamb to the slaughter, so to speak. Hey, you
Mm-hmm.
still have to work a regular job. You still have
Yeah.
to do all these things. So if you injure your arm and what have you, that impedes your ability to make a living for yourself, then
Mm-hmm.
it's a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the fun isn't so fun anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I see that more so now training. Not that training isn't fun now, but I take it more seriously, because the people that I'm around keep me in check, and because I'm trying to take this to the next level. Um, so, just little things like, oh, if I feel like I'm in a weird position where I might get hurt or I might hurt my knee, okay, stop. Or I'm not going to go with anybody that's a little bit heavier than my own weight class, right? Like, just little things. Or like, if I'm getting teed off a little bit more, maybe I'll be like, hey, let me figure out why I'm getting teed off real quick, instead of me just getting hammered the whole time. You know what I'm saying? So, um, and that's something I feel like more up and comers, or even just more fighters now, should take into consideration, is like, just be a little bit more selfish. Like, it's, egos will get the best of us, right? It's so easy to get in a gym war, and it's so easy to, um, you find yourself in an odd position with your legs, or someone's lacing up your legs and you're like, no, I got it. Like, no, just say stop. Let's just restart. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's a big part of like the people that I'm around now out here in California too. So,
Yeah, no, there's a certain tactical kind of I guess rebirth that you kind of have to
hmm
do, right?
hmm
And but you're better for it.
hmm
Which I mean, I think you were kind of alluding it, but I mean, it's California love, as Roger Troutman said, right? So,
hmm
what brought you out to California? Again, the two like pretty much pillars of Arizona MMA as
hmm
it stands, and has been for the last, I'd say, decade at least, at the very least.
hmm
So you could have stayed theoretically,
I
right?
could have. So I was at Fight Ready for about a year and a half, 2 years. Great coaches, Santino DeFranco. I learned a lot of wrestling with Angel Cejudo, and our coach Eddie Chaw from the lab actually transitioned to Fight Ready, who's
Right.
probably one of the best striking coaches I've ever met in my life. Um, and there's just a lot of when you get a lot of superstars in one place, I feel like sometimes the egos get a little flared up, and so there's a couple people that I just couldn't shake off an issue with. That there's always going to be weird energy there, and my best friend Ian actually moved to California prior to this, and started training at the training lab with Mark Munoz and TJ Dillashaw and all those guys. And once I kind of hit my ends wits with kind of the drama at my old gym, I was like, can I come over real quick? And so I drove over to Cali, and 1 month turned into a couple months, and I started helping him with his fights, and now I'm here. So just a change in scenery. Like, I feel like out here in California, you hit the nail on the coffin. Was like, or a nail on the head, was California love. Like, I feel like the energy in California is just so much more, like, surfer, like. And going back to like the Epic card, is like everyone was really like dabbing each other up, and like it was more like kind of like a festival or a celebration, more than like everyone's just staring at each other like, all right, who's in my weight class? Who am I going to beat up? Everyone's kind of tense. Out here for Epic, it was like, you feel that like everyone's like dabbing you up and stuff. Like, I won the fight, and the kid's like, Matt is shaking hands with me, taking pictures of me and stuff, and he says thank you. So I'm like, man, this is so weird. Like, so I think it's just the energy out here in California. Everyone's so laid back, and I love it, man. Who doesn't? Who wouldn't want to come out to Cali?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's a justification for all the high tax rates and all the what
Yeah,
have
that's
you.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it pays in spades, for experiences like that. Yeah, like you said, it's a festival of fight. Almost, because here's the fact of the matter. Everything that you just said, and I myself, been here since I was about 9, but I'm a transplant from NorCal, then Fiji, all
Okay.
these other places and what have you. But settling here, there's no place like home. Like the greater Los Angeles area into Orange County, into San Diego. There's nothing like it, and the fact of the matter is, as big as we are, you're talking Epic card. We have people coming in from Mexico, to fight
Yeah.
on the card.
There,
Arizona,
sorry. There's a girl that flew in from Tahiti,
yes,
that fought for a
absolutely,
belt. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. So you're
yeah,
absolutely right.
right. So with that being said, it's very very small when you think
Hmm.
about it, right? I mean, most people say like 6 degrees of separation. You can figure out, who what have you, right? In the MMA community, you can do it within 3. You could cut that,
Hmm.
6 into 3, and
Hmm.
literally have a tie to every gym across the world, right?
Exactly.
And a bit of that California deal, right?
Hmm.
We get the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners from Brazil, the best
Hmm.
Muay Thai from Thailand, the
Hmm.
best karate from Japan and
Anywhere.
China, right?
Hmm.
The reason being is because, again, everybody likes the sun, right?
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a hotbed.
yeah, those Iowa corn-fed wrestlers and what have you, Nebraska. They come
Hmm.
here. They all
Yeah.
like the best of everywhere ends up coming here, and it's
Hmm.
this cool thing from NorCal when you go, AKA Team Alpha, all the way
Hmm.
down. I mean, it's nothing like it. And again,
Hmm.
there's cross training that happens. Like, hey, you and Matt Padilla, you go out to Temecula and like get
Yeah.
them rounds. He
Hmm.
comes to the training lab, and there's
Hmm.
this, and you just never know. So that's what I've seen, and I've
Hmm.
been fortunate enough to kind of see it play out across, 4 or 5 years. I mean, I've even
Hmm.
seen like, at Epic, where somebody misses weight, right, and somebody that came to corner a particular person in another part of the card just happens to be on weight.
Yeah.
I'm talking about you, Tyler Van Kill, and literally goes into the title fight, wins both the Epic and the state title. Like,
Yep.
again, the state title is the crown jewel of amateur fighting here in
Hmm.
California, and like did it just being on weight, helping to corner a friend.
Hmm. Yeah, craziness. Craziness, but kudos to him for stepping up and killing it. Like, he had a great
Yeah,
fight.
yeah. But that's
So,
that's what I
yeah.
attribute it to.
And that's a big part of the reason, too, why I was more incentivized to come out to California is because um, there's not an area that doesn't have a gym, that doesn't have a great jiu-jitsu gym, that doesn't, like, you can go, like you said, you can go anywhere in California, and within 5 to 10 miles of you there's great gyms around you. MMA, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. That was a big thing that when we first came to the training lab, TJ Dillashaw would tell our team is like, the best investments you can make is within yourself. He's like, I don't go just here. I go here for my MMA training, but I go here for striking. I go here for jiu-jitsu. So my best friend Ian and I kind of took that to heart. So we go to 10th Planet for our jiu-jitsu. We go to Tyler Wambo's classic fight team for our Muay Thai. And like I said, I just came back from Joel Diaz's gym, get some sparring rounds with some sick boxers, like kids that are just Olympic level boxers, like ridiculous. Um, so like again, like that's why I love California. There's not a place out here where you won't be taken care of if you want to be, even if you just want to train with good people. I go to Oceanside every other Sunday at 10th Planet Freaks just to get open mat. And they have a huge open mat. So I love it out here, and it's definitely taken my career. It's elevated my career way more. It went from being here to just shooting up. So I love it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now, again, the two pillars of Arizona MMA, right?
Hmm.
And then I mean, it was Ian that kind of made wrote the, I mean, I guess read the tea leaves that, hey,
Hmm.
maybe Training Lab, that might be the
Exactly.
place to go.
We took a weekend trip to the training. So when I met Ian at Fight Ready for the first time, we were kind of like the only they had an amateur team and a professional team at Fight Ready at the time. We were the only ones on the amateur team that were like super hyped up about fight, like wanted to do this full time, you know. And not a knock on everyone else, but it was kind of like everyone else had jobs or school or whatever. Like Ian has a job, but his goal is to fight. My goal is I was already coaching at the time at like a kickboxing fitness gym, but this is my life, you know. And we took a trip out to the training lab for a weekend, and because we both love TJ Dillashaw, we both love Mark Munoz, and we want to see what it's about. And we got a sense of that culture, which I think is a big part of what makes gyms successful. And he took that leap of faith and said, "I'm moving within the next couple months." I said, "You're a little crazy. I might stay out here," but I ended up coming out anyway. So, yeah, it just happened for the better of things.
No, 100%. And I mean, you mentioned the great TJ Dillashaw, right, coming off
Hmm.
of a win
Yeah.
just this past Saturday. But I mean, that's not the only bantamweight world champion within the
Nope.
ranks of. I mean, Bellator's world bantamweight world champion
Hmm.
is the one Spaniard
Yes,
Archuleta.
sir.
Like
Yep.
that's just crazy, you know. And I got to see a little bit of the dynamic. Being at Juan's last fight for King of the Cage, and he was like a four
Okay.
division
Yeah.
champion and what
Something
have you.
ridiculous like that.
Yeah, it was like he was just draped in gold. That's pretty much it. But and seeing him and TJ, and I believe maybe Mark was there, maybe not. But I mean, just
Probably Cub and Mark.
yeah, Cub was
Hmm.
definitely there. Yeah, so that's seeing that dynamic firsthand, and like you said, like that bit of knowledge that TJ kind of instilled in all of you guys and Garrett was there, like the investments that you can make in yourself, right?
Hmm.
Because like everybody's going around and everybody's
Hmm.
sampling a bit of stuff from everywhere and
Yeah.
bringing that back to the hollowed walls and mats of the training lab, and everybody
Hmm.
gets better. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
sure there's stuff that you're bringing back from Geo and Boogie, right?
Hmm.
Shout out to Geo and Boogie from Ten
Yeah.
Valid Freaks, and that Mark Munoz probably hasn't seen, and
Hmm.
he integrates that into the curriculum, and it's just
Hmm.
amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting dynamic. It was training with Juan and TJ first was a little rough. I mean, it's always going to be intense and it's always going to be rough, but there's always that feeling out process of like, okay, who is this kid? I think after TJ and Juan kind of they one day in sparring, like, and we do 5-minute MMA rounds on Tuesdays, and it was like me, TJ, and Juan and Ian, and TJ and Juan are just passing us back and forth. Like, all right, go with Juan, and then TJ's sitting out, and then after I get done with Juan, he's like, okay, go with TJ. And I'm like, and then he did that like 3 more times, and like we were just scrapping, and I think after that day, they knew that I was game and I was tough and I was willing to. I didn't shy away from the challenge, right? Like I freaking loved it, and I think they saw that little crazy in me, and so it was awesome. Like TJ and Juan invited Ian and I out to Dwayne Ludwig's gym out in Denver for a week. So we spent a week out there with them. Like we've gone to like Huntington Beach and trained with Juan, and just making these connections, and they're becoming like big brother figures to us in a sense. Like they're not hounding us all the time, but like whenever they are around us in training, they make sure that we're doing it right. They make sure that we're not being lazy. TJ always gets on me for pulling my kicks and drilling because I want to be nice, but he's like, no, you gotta know what it feels like. They gotta know how to defend it and stuff. So, like it's just been a blessing to be around those guys, and Cub as well. Like we've been spending some time with Cub for the past week or so. So it's been awesome. And Cub's the more the quiet voice, but the little things that he says has a lot of meaning to it as well. He's got little gems of knowledge, and it's awesome. So I just get to learn from like you said, went from the two biggest gyms in Arizona to training with literally training. I think, in my opinion, training with like that trifecta of like the best bantamweights in the world, right? Like Henry, and then going with TJ and Juan. Like literally, like what better bantamweights can you think of higher level than those guys? You know what I'm saying? So, not that I'm getting my licks in. I'm getting beat up. Like, trust me, it's not a fun time, but I love it all together. So.
Now, I mean, how is it, right? Because we were talking about the bantamweight gold that essentially Juan and TJ have brought to the training lab. Well, you yourself have a bit of bantamweight to contribute to the pot of gold there at the training lab in the bantamweight division. How does it feel?
It feels pretty cool. It's always an awesome thing to win, and it's even more awesome to have a little something that says you won and you're the best in that weight class. My roommate Heber Castillo, who also fights for CFFC, great wrestling coach.
Yeah, we just actually saw Heber. He tried to come in the door. But
what the heck?
Yeah. Shout out to Heber. Yeah.
He's crazy, but he's been with Cub the majority, if not his whole career. And the one thing that he told me was like, when I won my first amateur title, Cub told me, "Hey, do you know what you do with that?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "You put it on the shelf and let it collect dust, and then you do the next thing." And so I kind of said that in my last post on Instagram. I was like, this is my second amateur. So I won a amateur title in Florida, and then my next fight, I won an amateur title in California. And right now, that title is sitting in our closet right now, collecting dust, because I want more, like the next thing. I don't want to dwell on this little piece of success that I have. And going into that, I'm actually fighting for potentially fighting for the Spar Stars bantamweight title as well. They just had an opponent change, so they're looking for an opponent. But that next fight in 2 weeks now will be for another belt. So.
I almost want to talk to Dave Denkin and make that a state title fight.
I tried. I definitely. So I asked him. I was like, "Who's fighting for the state title?" And the lady tells me these two guys, and I was like, "One of these guys is 2-0, and one of them is 4-0." I was like, and I have the text. I say, "Have me fight the guy that's 4-0, and I'll give you a fight worth watching." And she was like, "We can't. It's out of our hands." They signed the contract, and I was like, "Okay. I'm just saying." Just saying.
But again, never say never.
No,
not wishing ill will upon any of those gentlemen, those fine gentlemen. But if there's an alternate that if somebody doesn't,
I will be there.
Yeah, exactly.
I will be ready. But the goal is, like, I want one more fight and one more title, because it doesn't make sense for me to not fight for a title. My last 2 fights have been title fights. And then chill out the rest until the end of the year, and then make my pro debut. So, like I said, like, I'm coming in with that mentality, like, okay, I win another belt. I'll put it on the wall, make it look pretty, but we're on to the next one. I'm not going to be satisfied until I see UFC gold, man. I've held the UFC belts. I've held the Bellator belts in my hand. It feels good, and it's something I want for myself. So.
Damn right, I love it. I absolutely love it. Actually, I'll be at Spar Star, so I'll see you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Now, obviously, Aiden, there have been a lot of people that have encouraged you and helped you strive to get to where you are now. Take as long as you need, my man. But let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Yeah. First and foremost, my parents, Eugene, Kelly, Leal, they have been my biggest supporters. We have not always seen eye to eye, but as you grow up and you leave the nest, you get to see what they've done for you and everything that they've done for me. And I'm like, okay, I've taken a lot for granted. Let me give back. And so when I do fight and when I do put 100% into training and whatnot, that's kind of my give back in a sense, right? Like, this wasn't all the gas money that we spent, or all the money we spent sending me off to train wasn't for nothing, love of my life, Yareli, she's at home in AZ holding it down. that's the biggest thing. She's a rock in my life, making sure that I don't go crazy here in Arizona. And, so thank you so much for being patient with me while I take the time out here to California and beat some people up. And again, like the success and the hard work, that's a big thank you to those, right? Like I can say thank you all enough to support me and whatnot, but to show people that support me is a completely different thing, right? My roommate, Ian, Heber, and then Christian, all I'm sleeping on their couch, but I love it. It's a very comfy couch, and kind of giving me that segue to kind of get out of the kind of the drama that I was at Fight Ready, and make it new for myself and really elevate my career. And I can't thank those guys enough for giving me a place to sleep and giving me kind of segueing to all these gyms, Shout out TJ for winning this fight. Juan Archuleta, he's got something on the horizon, so just keep an ear out for Juan. Classic Fight Team, love Tyler Wambos. I love everyone there. If you guys want to do some crazy Muay Thai, Classic Fight Team's at it. Matt Salinas, who runs 10th Planet Mission Viejo, who is a wizard on the ground. I mean, he is one of the coolest jiu-jitsu guys and the smartest jiu-jitsu coach I've ever had. And obviously Coach Mark Munoz and everybody at the training lab. Those guys have really given me a new home, and I can't express enough how for the longest time when I was in Arizona dealing with like some drama and stuff, you almost lose sight of the goal and you lose sight of yourself, and you don't feel at home. I'm going to training and you go to work and you don't really want to be at work. And so when I finally was able to go and be around people that are kind of like-minded and, that California love type vibe, I found myself a new home that not only that I can feel comfortable in, but I can thrive and grow in. So just all those gyms, 10th Planet, Classic, Training Lab, and all my roommates, my parents, my friends, my family. I have so many supporters. I have so many family in the Philippines and whatnot. So anybody that ends up watching this, you know who you are. I love you guys. Even the haters. Like the hater, it's so classic to say, like, block out all the haters, but the haters motivate me too. You know how many times, like, my last couple fights, people have told me, like, oh, this is going to be a good fight. This is going to be fight of the night. And, kind of in a Michael Jordan sense, like, I almost take that personally. I'm like, no, I don't want it to be fight of the night. I don't want this to be I want to go in there and smoke some people, and maybe that's just like the competitiveness from TJ and Juan rubbing off on me. I get a little mean, but those guys are great, and I learned from those guys. So thank you so much, and thank you, man. Thank you for having me on the show, and this is an awesome show. I love it.
Hey, oh no, man! The pleasure's all mine. And again, this is a christening. I was actually had a death in the family, so I drove all the way out from SoCal to Georgia because Harvey hit me up. It was like, "Hey, are you gonna be there?" But I was like, "Ah, no." And I literally at the time of the fight, I think I was like in a 12-hour coma because like Thursday night before Epic is when we set back down here in Southern California. So I was just like. Yeah, so I thank you for allowing me the chance to be a part of Epic without even actually being there.
No, I appreciate it, and I'm excited. If you're going to be at the next Bar Stars, I will absolutely say hi to you. We'll take a picture with that belt. If fight ends up happening, it'll be a good time. And I always the new tradition now is they get I don't know if you saw one of my posts, but Ian and I we get cheesy crust pizza after a win, and we stuff our faces. So I'll be sure to share some cheesy crust pizza with you after.
Hell yes! And that's the thing. I do interviews, so you come to the winner's circle. Well, that's
okay.
What I do. That's what I do.
Okay, awesome. One more thing, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
One more thing. All right, shout out to the kids, Zeta, Julius. Make sure you feed the dogs and do your homework before you start playing Fortnite again. Happy birthday, Lexi. Shout out to Nuvia. I'll see you guys when I get home, okay?
See, there you go. Again, dude, thank you so much, Aiden, for jumping on here. And
thank you, brother.
Thank you guys for joining us here at According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Aiden, you're the future, and you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
Yes, sir. I am.
Heck
Yes.
yeah.
Make
So-
sure you follow the podcast. Follow According to Woods. Aiden the Future. If you want to see big things coming on both sides, follow both of us. It's gonna happen.
Heck yeah. Go ahead and check him out on the Instagram, Aiden the Future. He's also Aiden the Future on Twitter as well.
All across.
Yes, and I'm According to Woods across the board. So when it's not podcast, it's probably somebody breaking all types of ish and dad memes. So that's what I got. But
That's
thank you-
awesome.
Yes, thank you guys for joining us. And if you don't believe me, you don't believe the Epic Fighting Bantamweight Champion to subscribe to the podcast. Well, here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zhang to help convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe